Coming up on Arirang News. The U.S. government steps in after the collapse of the country's 16th largest bank, the Silicon Valley Bank. The bank's failure raises concerns in the global financial market while authorities around the world, including South Korea, prepare for any potential impact on the economy. Global credit appraiser Fitch Ratings maintains South Korea's rating at AA-, stating the outlook of the country's economy as stable. This, the agency says, on the back of Korea's robust external financial position and expected sustained return to a current account surplus. North Korea test fires missiles from submarines as the regime responds to the Freedom Shield. This 11-day joint military drill of South Korea and the U.S. kicked off today on a scale not seen in 5 years. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in South Korea. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. Responding to the dramatic collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, the U.S. government decides to step in to guarantee all deposits at the bank. Experts forecast this to be different from the 2008 financial crisis, but still, eyes are on any possible impact. Our economic correspondent, Yeoh, starts us off. On Sunday, in response to the fallout of tech-heavy lender Silicon Valley Bank, the U.S. government announced that all deposits at SVB will be available on Monday. Also included in the emergency measure is another failed institution, Signature Bank, a popular funding source for cryptocurrency companies. Plus, in a separate measure to strengthen public confidence in the banking system, the Federal Reserve announced that it will create a new lending facility for the nation's banks. Regarding the matter, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said on Sunday that a bailout of SVB is not on the table, citing improved resiliency in the U.S. banking system. Meanwhile, experts say the collapse of SVB, the largest bank failure since 2008, is different from the 2008 financial crisis. This is because in the case of the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers, which was caused by the drop in U.S. real estate prices, risk in financial system was high because the derivative products tied to subprime mortgages were so complicated that even the government and Wall Street could not figure out some of them. However, there are still concerns over the impact of the recent fallout on the global economy.
Even though the possibility is not that high, there is still a chance of a global financial crisis. Also, the recent bank run can raise economic uncertainty, accelerating the global economic slowdown.
The effect of the collapse of SVB on the Fed's next rate hike is another issue to follow because the collapse was in part caused by the Fed's aggressive monetary tightening, which resulted in a decline of government bond prices.
Other banks seem to be able to handle the lower government bond prices, and right now there does not seem to be any large number of bank runs happening in other banks, and inflation is still very, very high. So the FOMC will probably raise the interest rate when they meet in late March.
He added that it's a question, though, whether the FOMC will raise rates by 25 basis points or 50 basis points, but he said this strengthens the case for a smaller increase. Meanwhile, President Biden said he is firmly committed to holding those responsible for the crisis accountable. And he said deliver speech on Monday on ways to strengthen soundness in the banking sector. Yeoh, Arirang News. South Korea's benchmark Kospi was rather up today despite the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. The Korean authorities forecast a limited impact, but they're continuing to monitor the situation. Our Lee Dae-yeon has more.
South Korea will closely monitor for any signs of impact on its financial markets caused by the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. President Yoon Suk-yeol on Monday said its collapse has caused uncertainty in the financial markets and urged related officials to keep an eye on the situation and its impact in Korea. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho earlier on Monday said the fallout from SVB's collapse so far seems to have had limited impact on the global financial market, as top officials of the U.S. are responding by announcing protection measures for customers.
The government and related organisations will monitor the market around the clock and, if needed, take countermeasures promptly.
The Trade Ministry also mentioned that the SVB fallout has not hit the country's exports, but pledged to monitor the overseas situation and cooperate with related associations to deal with any possible issue. One expert says the SVB fallout may not affect the domestic market in the short term.
The fallout is not likely to directly lead to systemic risk or funding crunch. But if the economic slowdown continues and the cash flow problem breaks out, this may cause some risk to the domestic market.
In fact, Bitcoin jumped 7% in South Korea on Monday despite the bank's collapse. The benchmark Kospi rose a little over 6 points to close the day at 2,410.6, while the tech-heavy Kosdaq also rose, gaining 0.29 points. On the foreign exchange, the local currency strengthened by 22.41 against the US dollar, closing the day at 1,301.81 as the possibility of the Fed's rate hike pace downshift rises. Meanwhile, National Pension Service, the country's state pension fund operator, held some 100,000 shares of SVB Financial Group as of last year. The value of its stock holding came to some $23.2 million US dollars as of the end of 2022. Stock prices plunged to a little over $106 per share last Thursday from $200 late last month. Trading of shares has now been suspended. The NPS said it's reviewing measures to cope with the situation, adding that although it cannot reveal specific information on its investments, it has reduced its shares in SVB since 2021. Korean Investment Corporation also reportedly confirmed that it held some 20,000 SVB shares worth over $4.6 million that have also been suspended. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Global credit appraiser Fitch Ratings has reaffirmed South Korea's sovereign rating at AA- with a stable outlook. On Monday, Fitch cited South Korea's robust external finances, resilient macroeconomic performance, and relatively strong exports against geopolitical risks as reasons why. South Korea has maintained the agency's fourth highest level for over 10 years. As for the economic growth outlook for this year, the credit appraiser projects a 1.2% growth for South Korea, a drop from 2.6% last year. Fitch says South Korea is expected to face headwinds from sluggish global growth, high interest rates, and elevated inflation. On the local front, consumers are spending less on clothing and food amid the country's high inflation. Data from Statistics Korea on Monday show the retail sale index dropped by some 5% in January compared to August 2022. Spending on clothing showed the most notable drop out of all semi-durable goods during the August to January period, with the index plunging more than 7%, while the index for food fell over 9% during the same period. Today, South Korea and the U.S. kicked off their large-scale combined military exercise, and North Korea has earlier responded by firing what it calls strategic cruise missiles from a submarine. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-sung explains what that means.
North Korea fired 2 submarine-launched missiles off the east coast of the Korean peninsula, according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff on Monday morning. According to North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency, North Korea at dawn on Sunday fired 2 strategic cruise missiles from the 824 Yeongung, or Hero submarine, while conducting an underwater drill near the port city of Sinpo on the east coast. The news agency reported that the 2 missiles traveled in 1,500-kilometer orbits in a figure-8 shape, taking a little more than 7,560 seconds to directly hit their target. It touted the launch as a success. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff are investigating to verify the claims. A military official said other than the fact that there were 2 submarine-launched projectiles and their locations, North Korea's claims may not entirely be true. But if they are, this would be the first case of a submarine-launched cruise missile from North Korea. Experts say that submarine-launched strategic cruise missiles are concerning because they're challenging to detect and may be able to carry nuclear warheads. The North's claim also mean the missile could potentially reach as far as the U.S. Army base in Japan's Okinawa. North Korea has recently ramped up its weapons tests in a clear show of protest against the Seoul-Washington joint war games. Starting from Monday, the Allies are holding their largest live field training exercises in 5 years, codenamed the Freedom Shield. Since 2018, these exercises have been scaled back or called off, first to foster diplomacy with North Korea, and then to fend off COVID-19 infections. But now they're back, and for the longest ever, for 11 days.
We regret to see North Korea using our annual and defensive training as a pretext for provocation. We hope that North Korea sees that there's nothing to gain by escalating tensions on the Korean Peninsula.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff also assured that despite North Korea's provocations, Freedom Shield will proceed as planned. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The South Korean government has approved major defense projects to purchase more fighter jets and other weapon systems from the United States to enhance key defense capabilities against North Korea. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration unveiled such a plan on Monday. It includes 20 more F-35A stealth fighters and shipborne Standard Missile 6 or SM-6 interceptors. The South Korean Air Force currently runs 40 F-35As manufactured by the U.S. defense giant Lockheed Martin. The country is expected to spend some 3.75 trillion won, or a little under $3 billion, to get the fighter jets by 2028. 3 surviving victims of Japan's wartime forced labor have officially expressed their intention to reject the South Korean government's plan to compensate them through a domestic foundation. Their legal representative visited the foundation on Monday and delivered a document stating their objections to the government's third-party reimbursement plan. The attorney said the move is aimed at leaving clear evidence that the victims have expressed their opposition in case of legal disputes in the future. Korean victims and civic groups have been protesting as they insist the issue cannot be resolved without sincere apologies and participation from Japanese companies involved. In other news, there seems to be an announcement sooner than later to remove more remaining indoor mask mandates. That's according to the nation's COVID Advisory Committee chair. In the meantime, a cruise ship full of travelers disembarked today at South Korea's Sokcho for the first time in 3 years. Jung Eun-ju has more.
The South Korean government is considering a further easing of its antivirus restrictions as the country sees an overall downturn in the number of new COVID-19 infections. Jung Ki-seok, chair of the Government Advisory Committee for COVID-19, said in a press briefing Monday that whether and when the remaining indoor mask mandates will be lifted will be announced on Wednesday. Chung stressed the need, however, for high-risk groups to continue wearing masks in public places and called on doctors to expand the use of oral treatment pills. He added that the possible adjustment of regulations would be unlikely to pose major challenges to the country's virus responses, citing opinions from health experts. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, South Korea has managed the spread of COVID-19 in a stable manner despite a slight growth in the number of cases following the partial removal of the indoor mask mandate in January. The mask mandate is still in place at hospitals, pharmacies, and on public transportation. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said Monday that passengers disembarked from the Ahmadiyya cruise ship at a port in Sokcho on South Korea's east coast. The cruise ship carries about 500 travelers and 300 crew members. It's the first time a cruise ship based in a foreign country has stopped in the country with passengers on board since February 2020, when quarantine authorities restricted the entry of cruise ships due to the pandemic. Jung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
In China, President Xi Jinping brought to a close the country's annual parliamentary session with a pledge to prove his commitment to the people. Lee Si-hu has more on his pledge.
The annual session of China's rubber stamp parliament, the National People's Congress, that kicked off on March 5th, came to a close on Monday. The closing ceremony was held at Beijing's Great Hall of the People, beginning at 9 a.m. local time. One major achievement from the session was the endorsement of Xi Jinping's unprecedented third term as China's president. On Friday, Congress unanimously voted to endorse Xi's third term, making him the longest-serving head of the state since its founding in 1949. President Xi delivered a speech at the closing ceremony where he said that the people's trust is the biggest motivation that drives him to march on. Xi said that he will faithfully fulfill his responsibilities bestowed by the Constitution with the nation's needs as his mission and the people's interest as his yardstick. There was also a leadership reshuffle for the central government. Li Shang, one of Xi's most trusted protégés, was chosen as China's new premier on Saturday. On Monday morning, Li held a press conference to discuss future plans regarding the economy. Other senior appointments include 4 new vice premiers who will work to revive China's economy after 3 years of strict zero-COVID restrictions. The NPC also approved a plan to reform institutions under the State Council, including the formation of a financial regulatory body and National Data Bureau, as well as a revamp of its Science and Technology Ministry. The changes are seen as a further step by Xi to strengthen control over key areas of policy making. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, a tangible rapprochement has been sealed between Saudi Arabia and Iran after years of animosity that fueled broader regional tensions. Yoon-jin has more on the latest breakthrough.
On Sunday, the South Korean government welcomed the good news of Saudi Arabia and Iran resuming diplomatic relations. South Korea's foreign minister said that Seoul hopes this agreement will enhance trust between the two countries and alleviate tensions in the region. An agreement brokered by China was signed on Friday by Saudi Arabian National Security Advisor Musaid bin Mohammed al-Ayban and Iran's top security official Ali Shamkhani. After 4 days of previously undisclosed talks in Beijing, the two Middle Eastern powers agreed to reactivate a 2001 security cooperation accord, as well as another earlier pact on trade, economy, and investment. The two countries have long been at odds, with Saudi Arabia as the leading Sunni Muslim power and Iran the leading Shiite Muslim power. While the two have backed opposite sides in proxy wars throughout history, the recent hostility between the two countries has threatened stability and security in the Gulf and has been fueling conflicts in the region. Friday's deal resumes diplomacy between the two countries. Saudi Arabia had cut ties with Iran in 2016 amid a dispute over Riyadh's execution of a Shiite Muslim cleric, with Iran storming the Saudi embassy in Tehran in retaliation. Then in 2019, Saudi Arabia blamed Iran for missile and drone attacks on its oil facilities, as well as attacks on tankers in Gulf waters, charges which Iran has denied. Analysts say Friday's agreement should de-escalate tensions in the region, which includes affirmation of the two countries' respect for the sovereignty of states and the non-interference in internal affairs, with an agreement to reopen embassies in both countries within 2 months. And for China, their top diplomat Wang Yi highlighted Beijing's role in achieving the successful deal for dialogue and peace, adding that it would continue to play a constructive role in addressing tough global issues. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
More history has been made at the Academy Awards. Michelle Yeoh's starring role in the psychedelic comedy Everything, Everywhere, All at Once has won her the award for Best Actress. She's the first Asian woman to do so. The film took home 7 Oscars from 11 nominations. Shin Se-byuk tells us more.
The glass ceiling at the Oscars has been broken. At the 95th Academy Awards on Sunday, Michelle Yeoh became the first Asian woman to win an Oscar for the Best Actress. Malaysia-born Yeoh earned a title for her role in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. She played Evelyn Wang, the Chinese first-generation immigrant owner of a laundromat dealing with family turmoil. Yeoh was widely regarded as the front-runner after clinching Screen Actors Guild and Golden Globe Awards for the same role. Yeoh spoke of hope and possibilities in her acceptance speech, saying the trophy is proof that dreams come true. Her trophy is particularly significant given the history of Asian actors and the Oscars. She is only the second Asian actress to be nominated in the category, and also only the fifth person of Asian descent to win an Oscar in a lead acting category. The veteran actress became a star of Hong Kong cinema before coming under the global spotlight in films like Memoirs of a Geisha and James Bond: Tomorrow Never Dies. The film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, swept this year's Oscars as it clinched 7 awards from 11 nominations, including Best Supporting Actor and Best Screenplay. Chinese-Vietnamese actor Ke Huy Quan, known for his role in 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, becoming only the second Asian man to do so. The film also made history by becoming the first winner of the Best Picture category to feature an Asian-American family with a strong LGBT storyline. 신새벽, Arirang News.
Farmers in southwestern Korea are counting on their newly grown lettuce to drive up their profits because these are hukkarang, a local variety rich in properties that make you fall asleep. They're perfect as a source of natural sleep aids. Our Cho Sung-min has more.
This is a type of lettuce called hukkarang. They're grown locally and organically as part of a joint venture between a group of farmers and the Jeollanam-do Province Agricultural Agency. Farmers say they've chosen to grow lettuce because they're cost-effective and show higher yields compared to other vegetables.
From our harvesting experience, we could see they produce economically higher value per square meter of land than other produce, which helps increase profits.
A total of 11 designated farms specialize in producing these lettuces, which have shown to contain 24 times the amount of lactucin compared to normal kinds, a type of natural property abundant in lettuce leaves known to have sedative effects. That's why in Korea, it is said that eating lettuce makes you sleepy. The lettuces grown here are sourced for various health supplements and products sold in more than a dozen department stores nationwide, and the farmers believe there's an even bigger opportunity to be seized here.
It started as a project to differentiate locally grown produce from others, and as the Nagoya Protocols were issued in 2012, the importance of such practical resources spiked, and that's how Jeollanam-do decided to grow one of its own.
There are currently over 20 ways the lettuce can be used, from its stems to the leaves, in making a variety of products ranging from tea to juice, powder, and fermented jelly. The products are also being shipped to China, Japan, and France, and are being ready to be sent to around a dozen more countries.
Hukkarang was organically certified by the US and the USDA, and also registered for FDA.
Locally, farmers say they're hoping their products can benefit some 640,000 people who struggle to sleep at night. The market size of lettuce-based natural sleep aids is expected to grow at least 5% every year, and they believe that hukkarang can be the main source. Cho Sung-min, Arirang News.
A warm front will settle in starting tomorrow daytime. This will peak conditions on the milder side for the next few days. For tomorrow, maximum temperatures will be rising significantly to 15 degrees Celsius in Seoul. This is about 5 degrees higher than the seasonal average, with a drastic rise in daytime readings. Wide temperature gaps between day and night will follow. And with the air circulating at a fairly fast rate, the nation will see clean air restored tomorrow. Expect air quality to stand in the normal to good category, but keep in mind that gusty winds may accompany from time to time. Dry air coupled with gusty winds will be conducive to the spread of wildfires, so please take extra precautions. Tomorrow, Seoul will be starting off at 2 degrees and Gyeongju at 0 degrees. Daytime highs will be jumping significantly. Seoul will reach 15 degrees, Daejeon 18, Gwangju and Gyeongju will be warm at 19 degrees. Warm conditions will persist for the remainder of the week with highs exceeding the seasonal norms. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great start of the week. Good night.